Timelines. They're collapsing into each other. Neither one is going to come out clean. On Earth, Vra'shek has crossed a line that Cylas is quietly, methodically piecing together. And what Cylas does with that knowledge is its own kind of threat. Meanwhile, 1,000 years in the past, Freydis has found the source of everything, the name behind the sabotage, the man she loved, and a choice she can't take back. This week, the Covenant stops being history and becomes something personal. Here we go.
Roger squinted at Sarah, dust swirling in the charged air.
Now how would you know where those lines are converging? We can't even see where they meet.
Sarah kept her tone even at first.
Because I've studied the mapped portions of the Milky Way, and regions humans haven't even charted yet. That's how I know.
Roger folded his arms, voice rising.
Or maybe you know because you caused it. Your family's been wrapped up in this since the beginning. The original drag my ass all over the galaxy roadshow. How do we know you're not just keeping us busy while your people finish whatever this is?
Sarah's expression darkened. The violet and gold began to swirl in her eyes, pulsing in rhythm with the flickering light from the half-formed portal.
Because I'm not. I've been on Earth almost my entire adult life trying to protect people like you from walking through portals into empty space. You think I'd waste that trying to trick you?
The air vibrated. Sand drifted upward as if caught in reversed gravity. Drimus leaned toward Castor.
It's not a good thing when her eyes do that.
Castor moved quickly, stepping between them. He put an arm in front of Sarah, then around her shoulders, pulling her back gently.
Hey, look at me. He doesn't know you. You're okay. You're here.
Sarah breathed hard, stared at Roger, jaw tight, but the glow in her eyes dimmed. The air settled. Roger looked away, ashamed but unwilling to apologize. Drimus crouched beside the glowing sand, breaking the silence.
She's right. We're not fully anchored. This isn't Egypt, not completely. We're in resonance space.
Sarah steadied her breath, eyes flicking to the Egyptian priest.
That means the convergence is real. The book's connecting every place it's ever opened, every time it's ever been used.
Castor glances down at the crystalline petal still in his hand.
So all those points, the pyramids, the Nazca lines, the stone circles, they're connected?
Yes, and they all lead to one place. Caldwell 51.
The priest's expression falters, the confidence in his gaze dimming.
Sister, you should not know that name.
The priest's pupils contracted until they were pinpricks of gold light. His smile twitched, splitting across his face like a crack in stone.
You should not know that name. It is not for the unbonded, not for anyone.
What is it then? What's in Caldwell 51?
A place where the makers wove beginnings and endings together. The place from where the book came to us and unmade those who touched it.
He pressed a trembling hand to the artifact, its symbols burning brighter under his fingers.
They told me not to look too long, but I had to see. I had to know.
Sarah's tone is cautious now, the anger gone.
And what did you see?
Eyes in the dark. A voice that wasn't a voice. They showed me the lattice of creation, how every portal, every resonance, every life is stitched through the same thread. And then they laughed.
The group exchanges uneasy looks. The book in Castor's hand hums faintly in response, as though answering its twin. Drimus whispers,
He's been exposed too long. The resonance is eating through his mind.
They're not done. They'll come again when the 5 converge, the 5 lights, the 5 arcs, the 5 keys, when they open the way to Caldwell 51.
The priest's wild gaze locks on Sarah.
That's why the council sent the twins after me, to correct the corruption. But they can't stop it. None of you can.
The air ripples again, the temple flickering between sun-bleached stone and modern shadow. Sarah grips Castor's arm to steady herself. Castor glances around, voice tight.
He's losing control of the resonance field. If this collapses, we're going with it.
Okay, I'm all prophesied up for one day.
Roger took an involuntary step back. Drimus's hand hovered over the drifting dust, feeling the pulse of timelines splitting apart.
We have seconds, maybe less.
Then we get out the same way we came in, through the book.
Snow swirled low over the fjord, wrapping the longhouse in a muted haze. Freydis knelt by the hearth, grinding dried herbs with a bone pestle, her mind far from the murmured prayers around her. The clan thought her a seer, touched by spirits. In truth, the voices she heard belonged to something far older. The artifact, pulsing faintly beneath her furs like a living heart. Each night, she wandered beyond the palisade under the northern lights, frost stiffening her breath. The artifact's hum blended with the surf's rhythm. Fragments, images, numbers, all memories not her own. You seek truth, it told her once, in the shimmering voice of metal stretched across time. Then gather it from the ashes of betrayal. She obeyed, quietly, methodically. While the others hunted elk and sharpened spears, she collected the remnants of a story lost to every world. Shards of wrecked metal buried in glacial stone. Fragments of energy signatures the artifact called arc residue. Her sketches filled entire hide scrolls, the pattern of the iron door's fall, the lattice of portals blinking in and out of the sky like dying embers. When she asked who had caused this destruction, the artifact hesitated. Its glow dimmed to a dull violet. They were called the Covenant, it finally said. They unmade what was promised. Freydis stilled.
The Oblivion Covenant?
Names decay, it answered. Intent survives. Over the months, she pieced together the impossible truth that the Covenant had sabotaged not one, but several Ark missions. The evidence was written in the ether, disrupted portal coordinates, helix distortions that aligned with known Zorathian sabotage markers. The artifact guided her hand as she charted it all, and yet she felt it steering, choosing which memories to reveal and which to bury. Then came the night of the storm. The villagers huddled indoors as lightning split the sky. Freydis stood alone on the cliffs, the artifact pulsing furiously against her skin. 3 of us were sent, 3 gifts from 2 the rulers. We were meant to bind worlds, to open that which must be, not destroy them. Her heart hammered.
Gifts? For what purpose?
To remember, it said, and to warn. But I was betrayed. The storm deepened. Freydis clutched the artifact tighter.
By whom?
Silence. Then a flicker, an image burned across her mind. A Zorathian sigil, the mark of House Sudis, Sarah's ancestor. The revelation tore through her, and yet before she could demand more, the artifact's voice changed, urgent and electric. "You are not safe here." The ground trembled. The air rippled around her like heat above metal. She saw light bending, colors she had no names for, and realized, too late, that the artifact was opening again.
No, wait!
The last thing she saw was the fjord collapsing into ribbons of starlight. The longhouse, the clan, the frozen world, all swept away as she was yanked across the void. And then, Zora. Ashes. The council spire, shattered and burning. And among the flames, the mark of Salon, carved into the very heart of the betrayal. The world snapped back in light and thunder. Freydis fell hard to her knees on polished obsidian. Air here was alive with static, familiar, electric, Zorathian. The research facility stretched before her, but the stars were wrong. The towers she remembered, half-built, their spires still gleaming, were now weathered, cracked. In her hands, the artifact pulsed weakly, drained from the jump.
Where?
"When," it corrected faintly. Her breath hitched.
Yes, when?
In the lower hall of the council spire, Salon paced the chamber like a caged predator, violet robes trailing behind her. The usually serene first researcher of the Empire was pale, trembling. She had dismissed her aides and locked the doors. The events of yesterday, Freydis's defiance before the council, her accusations, the artifact vanishing, had shattered her composure. She activated a communication crystal, its light shimmering with distortion. The crystal flickered like a dying star.
You promised containment. It was not to make it off-world.
A deep, measured voice answered, filtered through static.
Now. Containment was not guaranteed. The artifact's response to her emotional state was somewhat predictable, given her relationship to it. You should have secured it.
Salon's hands clenched around the crystal.
Do not lecture me, Darin-Dis. You are aboard Arendor, and the guidance has failed completely. You were supposed to disable that ship, not destroy it.
I did what was necessary. If the Council learned the Covenant was aboard every Ark, none of us, you especially, would survive.
Freydis froze in the corridor outside, barely breathing. Darin-Dis. The name struck her like a pulse through her chest, but she couldn't believe it, couldn't let herself.
Half the fleet lost to sabotage. Do you understand what we've done? The Covenant's purity has cost Zora at least half its expanded bloodline.
Again, I did what was necessary. You speak of cost? You stand in marble halls while I prepare to sacrifice for our cause. We cleansed the path of weakness, Salon. The strong will endure. You know this.
Salon turned away, face twisted in guilt. Or was it conviction?
You've doomed millions!
And we are preserving trillions in the universe. They are necessary sacrifices.
Freydis felt something inside her snap. The world around her dimmed as the artifact began to hum, responding to the fury rising in her chest. She stepped from the shadows into the chamber, her voice breaking through the silence like thunder.
Look at what your purity has cost, Darin. Look at it.
Salon spun, eyes wide. For an instant, she looked as if she was seeing a ghost, and perhaps she was.
Freydis? No,
You can't be here.
The artifact's glow intensified, bathing the chamber in a cold, spectral light. Freydis stepped forward, every word trembling with rage and grief as she stared at the screen.
Darin, how could you corrupt the arcs? You've damned our kind. You call it sacrifice?
Salon backed toward the comm crystal, panic flooding her face.
Guards!
But Freydis raised the artifact, and light erupted between them, alive and vengeful. Light flooded in everywhere as Cylas completely opened the curtain with a harsh rasp. Sunlight flooding the warehouse like an ambush. Vra'shek hissed and turned away, his pale green skin tightening under the sudden glare.
You enjoy this cruelty?
Cylas leaned against the doorframe, arms folded.
Consider it an incentive. You've been sleeping half the day, and I've got questions you keep dodging.
The Kren blinked, his reptilian pupils constricting.
About what?
Talrin, my partner.
Vra'shek's expression didn't change. His voice dropped an octave, smooth and dry.
I told you, she left. Took off, didn't say where. Perhaps she found your hospitality lacking.
Cylas studied him for a long moment. The man, if you could call him that, was deteriorating. His scales a little duller now, the edges of his claws cracked. Every breath seemed like effort.
Sure, light years from home, and she just left.
He turned and headed out into the frosty morning air, leaving the Kren to hiss after him. Cylas tracked the thin fog rising off the street, pulse kit slung low on his back. He had already walked the path from the Four Corners bar to the warehouse and found nothing. He supposed this routine might help him clear his head. Instead, the silence gnawed at him. A voice from up around the alley before the bar called out, muffled by distance.
Hey. What's this purple goo?
Cylas's heart sank. He broke into a trot, catching a metallic scent cutting through the air. When he got to the dumpster, he looked behind it. Purple residue glistened against the bricks, iridescent, almost luminous. Two vagrants were standing over the remains of the body, or what used to be one. The torso shredded, chest caved inward, a trail of violet fluid that had spilled out on the ground. Zorathian remains.
You guys get out of here. This is obviously a prank.
As the two wandered off, Cylas knelt, flicking on his ocular augment. The world sharpened. Beneath the carnage, barely visible, were a set of deep, curved impressions, claw marks. His mechanical lens zoomed, analyzing the depth and spacing. Perfect match. Kren morphology. Vra'shek. Cylas straightened slowly, his breath heavy in the air. His first instinct was to storm back to the warehouse and continue the Zorathian/Kren war personally. But he hesitated. If I confront him, I lose the chance to learn why he's here. He reached down and retrieved Talrin's implant. He turned and headed back to the warehouse. Vra'shek sat hunched over a small transmitter crystal, the surrounding light pulsing in sync with his ragged breathing. With the connection made, he stuffed a couple of peppers in his mouth and felt better immediately.
Trielvan, respond, now.
The response crackled through, faint and distorted. The shrouded face moved closer to the screen.
What are you eating? They look disgusting.
Vra'shek stuffed another into his mouth, and chewed until the juice trickled down his chin.
The locals call them smoking Uranus peppers, like the planet.
His long tongue rolled out of his mouth and licked his chin clean.
Long name for such a little thing, but whatever. We've confirmed the human, the Zorathian female, the scientist, and the artifact holder have all vanished. The artifact as well.
How could this happen? What is going on? I was at its last known position.
Whatever it is, our instruments show a spike in dimensional interference from Earth to Oryx Station. It's unstable.
Outside, Cylas stood silently at the door, watching through the opening, one hand tightening around his pistol's grip, the other touching the thin metal plate at his temple where his augment fed him data. He'd made his choice. Not confrontation, observation. For now. Vra'shek pressed a clawed hand to his temple, grimacing as a sudden wave of pain hit him, a vibration more than a sound, like a frequency resonating through bone. He gasped, eyes flashing crimson. A low growl escaped him.
I can feel it, like fire in the skull. It feels more powerful. They're coming back, all of them, and the book will follow.
The comm flickered and died, leaving only the sound of his ragged breathing and the glow of the screen. Light. It filled every particle of air, searing through skin and nerve, until pain was the only constant. Salon screamed, not from the heat, but from the truth unraveling in front of her. Freydis stood within the radiance, the artifact pulsing between her hands like a captured star.
Freydis, you don't understand what you've done!
Salon cried, voice fractured with rage and grief.
Everything we sacrificed was to keep the universe alive!
Freydis's tear-streaked face lifted, shimmering in the molten glow.
Alive? You let them destroy the arcs. You let them kill our people.
I had to. Once Darin-Dis showed me what the Council planned, how blind they were, I knew the Covenant was right. Someone had to make the hard choices.
Behind her, the comm crystal flickered, and Darin-Dis's image shimmered into view. Older, haggard, eyes hollow with sleepless guilt.
Freydis, enough.
Freydis turned toward his image, breath catching.
Darin, you?
The light from the artifact faltered, its pulse slowing as grief overtook fury. Freydis fell to her knees, shoulders shaking.
How could you? How could you betray everything we believed in?
The artifact dimmed, its crystal facets dulling as her emotion shifted. Grief, not will. The resonance collapsed inward, like a lung expelling air. Darin-Dis's hologram flickered closer, voice thick.
This is why I never brought you in. You lead with heart, Freydis. The Covenant leads with reason.
Her sobs became gasps.
Reason? You destroyed our fleet. You murdered worlds.
Salon, staggering from the pain, began to circle. Her eyes stayed on the artifact, where it now lay on the ground, pulsing faintly beside Freydis's hand. Each heartbeat of light seemed weaker, vulnerable. Freydis didn't see her move. She was still staring at the projection of her husband, disbelief twisting into sorrow.
I would have followed you anywhere. But this isn't salvation.
Salon's voice broke through, ragged and desperate.
It's survival!
She lunged. The motion snapped Freydis back to herself. Her hand darted to the side, gripping the bone-handled Viking blade she'd carried since her arrival on Earth. Crude, but real. As Salon stretched for the artifact, Freydis spun and drove the knife upward. The blade slid into Salon's throat. There was a sharp intake of breath and a small cracking sound. Shock and disbelief in Salon's eyes. Then silence. Salon staggered, trying to speak, violet blood gleaming in the radiant light. Salon fell. Freydis stood over her, trembling. Her voice broke.
That should silence your lies, Salon.
Salon fell, the light fading from her eyes, the glow from the artifact reflecting in the spreading pool beneath her. The chamber dimmed to darkness. Freydis looked at the screen and Darin-Dis.
At least I know you're already dead, traitor.
The artifact blazed again with her anger, and then it flared, swallowing her in light.
Freydis walked into that chamber carrying grief and a Viking blade, and she walked out alone. Darin-Dis gave her the Covenant's justification, reason over heart, and she answered it the only way she had left. Back on Earth, Cylas is standing at a warehouse door with a hand on his pistol, knowing exactly what Vra'shek did, choosing observation over confrontation. Two people, 1,000 years apart, both deciding what kind of person they are in the worst possible moment. If you're enjoying the story, please like, subscribe, and review it where you get your podcasts. It really helps. See you next week. Until then, keep your eyes on the curve.